Last night's Late Show turned into an absolute madness as Stephen Colbert and Katy Perry clashed in one of the most shocking live TV moments in recent memory. What was supposed to be a fun and witty segment quickly unraveled into a shocking verbal battle that had everyone on the edge of their seats. The applause sign was flashing. The band played its jazzy exit from commercial riff. Stephen Colbert straightened his blazer and gave the audience that sideways smirk, the one that always meant something was brewing. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice syrupy with suspense, "tonight we've got someone who's, well, technically not from this planet anymore." Scattered laughs, eyebrows raised. A few folks sat up straighter. "She's a global pop star, a hit machine, a firework, if you will," he said with a wink. "And, as of this week, a verified space traveler." Now the murmurs started, a buzz of surprise flickering across the studio. He let it hang. Then, "Please welcome to the show, fresh off Blue Origin's NS-31 spaceflight, Katy Perry." The crowd exploded. The band kicked into a spacey remix of Dark Horse as Katy emerged from the wings in a silver jumpsuit that shimmered like it had been woven by starlight itself. She moved like she was still half floating, waving to the crowd with a daisy tucked behind one ear, her smile somewhere between rock star and astronaut. People stood, phones came out, a few jaws literally dropped. Colbert looked briefly stunned himself. "Wow," he said, as he stood to greet her, mock bowing. "You went to space and came back cooler." "Didn't know that was possible, did you?" Katy grinned, taking her seat with a dramatic twirl. The audience was still clapping, still processing. It wasn't just the surprise. It was the surrealness of it all. Katy Perry, one of the most recognizable pop stars on Earth, now one of the few civilians to see Earth from above it. Colbert settled back in. "So, no big deal, just, space? I assume you brought back a moon rock and not the end of civilization?" Katy raised an eyebrow. "Only brought back perspective, Stephen." The laughter was instant, but behind it, curiosity sparked like a slow burn. This wasn't just another celebrity interview, this was something else. And everyone in that room knew they were about to hear a story that was bigger, literally, than anything they'd expected. The applause settled into silence, the kind that feels like the air's holding its breath. Stephen leaned forward, elbows on the desk, eyes locked on Katy. "Okay," he said, "what's it like?" She tilted her head, considering. "It's like dreaming with your eyes open." He blinked. "That's either the most beautiful thing I've ever heard or a side effect of oxygen deprivation." The crowd laughed, but Katy was already talking, her voice soft but sharp. 11 minutes. That's how long we were up. And yet," she paused, "it changes everything." She described the roar of launch, the gut punch of gravity releasing its grip, the capsule shaking. Then silence, then nothing. "I looked out and saw the curve of Earth. It wasn't a postcard, it was alive, blue, endless, delicate." The crowd was quiet now, not bored quiet, captivated quiet, the kind of quiet people reserved for sermons or shooting stars. Colbert broke the spell with a grin. "And you sang?" Katy laughed. "Yeah. What a wonderful world. A little ironic, I know, but I floated there, literally floating, just singing. Because what else do you do when you see all of humanity in one window?" The audience erupted again. One woman in the front row wiped a tear. Colbert raised an eyebrow. "I also heard you pulled a little mid-orbit marketing stunt?" Katy grinned. "Guilty. I announced the first 5 songs on my next tour set list, in space." He mock gasped. "A cosmic set drop?" I floated, did a slow spin and said, "Coming soon to a planet near you." The crowd roared. "But that wasn't the big moment," she said, suddenly serious again. "The real moment? Looking around at the other women in that capsule, knowing we were making history together?" Colbert nodded. "First all-female crew since 1963. Valentina Tereshkova," Katy said. "The only woman who'd done it solo. Until us." The applause returned, not loud this time, but deep, respectful. "I didn't just want to go to space," she said. "I wanted to bring other women with me, not just in the capsule, but watching from the ground, girls dreaming bigger than they were told they could." Colbert looked down at his desk. "I thought we were going to talk about rocket fuel and weightlessness," he said. "Now I feel like I need to go hug my mom." Katy just smiled. "It's a wonderful world, Stephen. You just have to get high enough to see it." Colbert leaned back in his chair, sizing Katy up with exaggerated suspicion. "So," he said, finger tapping his chin, "how exactly does one pack for space? I assume you left the platform boots and latex corsets at home?" The audience chuckled. Katy grinned, smoothing a shimmer across her sleeve. "I mean, a little sparkle never hurt anyone," she said, "even in orbit." On the screen behind them, a still image from the flight appeared. Katy floating midair, wearing a sleek white flight suit with metallic detailing, the blue origin patch sparkling like a constellation on her chest. "She's serving astronaut couture," Colbert announced, throwing his arms wide. "This is less NASA and more Hassa." The crowd laughed. "Look," Katy said, hands up. "Space may be zero gravity, but fashion still holds weight." She went on to explain how the flight suits were customized for comfort, but each astronaut was allowed one small personal item, something meaningful. "I brought a daisy," she said, reaching into her jacket pocket and pulling out a delicate fabric replica. "It's my daughter's favorite flower. I wore it right here." She tapped her heart. "Oh," the audience let out collectively, the sound somewhere between admiration and an audible hug. Colbert tilted his head. "So while I'm over here getting emotional about socks, you're floating above Earth with a flower for your kid tucked in your chest plate. Thanks, Katy." "Really putting my dad game to shame," she laughed. "You can borrow the idea, just make sure it's not a Venus flytrap." More laughter. The tension in the room softened, replaced by warmth. "But seriously," she said, her voice dropping into something quieter, something deeper. "I wanted her to know that even when I'm far away, even in literal space, she's still with me, right here." She touched the daisy again. The room quieted. Even Colbert's punchlines took a pause. "See," he said eventually, eyes twinkling, "this is why you're not just a pop star. You're like the glittering ambassador of emotional payloads." Katy smiled. "Well," she said, "just trying to make the universe a little more fabulous." Cue applause, cue hearts melting across the nation. The applause still echoed when Colbert sat up a little straighter, the mood gently shifting. "Okay," he said, tone half cautious, half curious. "Now I have to ask, you know what some people said, right? About the mission?" Katy didn't flinch. She nodded. "Yep," she said calmly. "I've seen the comments." Colbert continued, "Some folks online, a few headlines too, called it, quote, a gluttonous publicity stunt. One outlet even said, 'While the world burns, pop stars launch into the stratosphere.'" He raised an eyebrow. Not exactly subtle. The audience murmured, unsure whether to laugh or hold their breath. Katy's expression didn't change. She leaned forward, resting her hands together, voice steady. "I get it," she said. "There's a lot going on in the world. There's pain, there's struggle. So yeah, I understand how a rocket launch with famous people might look disconnected." She paused, letting the words settle. "But that's not what this was," she said. "This was the first all-female crewed flight since 1963. We weren't just passengers. We were symbols of progress, of possibility." The murmurs quieted. People were listening now, closely. "We wanted to show young women everywhere, especially girls watching from schools, from small towns, from places where dreams feel out of reach, that they belong up there too, in labs, in launch pads, in leadership." Colbert nodded slowly. "So you're saying this wasn't about escaping Earth?" Katy smiled. "It was about expanding what's possible on it." A smattering of applause, then more, then full-on cheering. "And STEM," she added. "Let's talk about that. Science, tech, engineering, math. These fields still don't have enough women. If me floating around in zero gravity with mascara on inspires one girl to become an astronaut instead of just a fan, it was worth every mile. Colbert raised his hands in mock surrender. I came here to tease you about space glitter, and now I'm ready to fund a scholarship. Katy laughed. Perfect. Let's call it the Stephen Stardust Grant. More laughter. Then applause again, this time louder, more charged. The critics may have shouted online, but in this room, Katy wasn't just defending her trip, she was redefining its purpose, and people were beginning to see it. Colbert glanced at his cue card, then looked back up with that mischievous gleam. All right, he said, shifting in his chair, we've got to talk about the beef. Katy raised an eyebrow. The what? He leaned in. The beef, Katy, the spicy kind, the square patty on a bun kind. The audience chuckled. Katy caught on. Oh, she said with a slow grin, that beef? The screen behind them lit up with a screenshot of the now infamous tweet from Wendy's official account, posted just hours after her spaceflight. Can we send her back? The audience gasped, half in shock, half in delight. Colbert clutched his chest in mock scandal. Wendy's, the Frosty folks, they came for you like you messed with their secret sauce. Katy laughed. Honestly, I wasn't mad. I just didn't expect to be roasted by a fast food chain from orbit. More laughter. Someone in the crowd yelled, "Too soon!" But seriously, she continued, the smile fading into something softer, more thoughtful. It's easy to let stuff like that get to you. Everyone has something to say. A tweet, a take, a hot, spicy opinion. Colbert nodded. And Wendy's usually saves that energy for McDonald's. I know, right? She said. It's like I left Earth for 11 minutes and came back into a meme war. The crowd howled. But here's the thing, Katy said, voice steadying. You can't control what people say. You can only control how much of it you let in. She tapped her heart gently. If I changed who I was every time someone clapped back, I'd be a stranger to myself by now. Colbert nodded, serious for a beat. So you're saying, stay grounded, even after you've been to space. Exactly, Katy smiled. Let them tweet. I'll just keep orbiting my purpose. The crowd clapped. The joke had turned into something real. Because sometimes a little sass from a burger brand is just noise. And sometimes it's a reminder that staying true to yourself is the loudest message you can send back. Colbert shuffled his note cards theatrically, like he was about to summon ancient knowledge or host a late-night version of Jeopardy! All right, he said, you've dazzled us with space facts, historical context, daisy symbolism, and clapbacks hotter than a Wendy's grill, but I have one final test. Katy leaned in, intrigued. Hit me. He slapped the cards down. The Colbert Space Challenge. The audience whooped. The band played a little intergalactic jingle. On the screen behind them, glowing neon letters spelled out, Pop Star vs. Planets. Katy grinned. Please tell me I get a buzzer. A stagehand appeared with a silver orb-shaped buzzer that lit up on touch. Okay, Colbert said. First question. How many planets in our solar system? Katy hit the buzzer. Buzz. 8. Pluto is canceled. Correct, he nodded. R.I.P., little guy. Next, name the first woman in space. Buzz. Valentina Tereshkova, 1963. We love her. Yes, Colbert shouted. Okay, now a real challenge. What's the speed you have to hit to escape Earth's gravity? Katy squinted. Like 17,000 miles per hour? Colbert blinked. That's actually almost dead on. Have you been studying astrophysics on the side of your pop career? She smirked. Only when I'm not writing set lists mid-orbit. The audience was in stitches. Bonus round, Colbert shouted. Which Katy Perry song title also sounds like an intergalactic space maneuver? Katy paused. E.T.? Correct again, he cried. The judges also would have accepted Wide Awake or This Is How We Do re-entry. Laughter roared through the studio. Katy stood, did a mock victory lap, and held up the silver buzzer like a trophy. "I'd like to thank my planet," she said, "and my third-grade science teacher who made me label Saturn's rings." Colbert gave her a slow clap. "You passed the Colbert Space Challenge, and that means—" He reached under the desk and pulled out a gold-plated astronaut helmet. "You are now officially certified as Pop Commander of the Cosmos." Katy placed it on her head with dramatic flair. As it should be. Confetti burst from above, and for a moment, the stage wasn't just a late-night set. It was a launch pad for laughter, curiosity, and glitter-fueled trivia. The mission accomplished. The lights dimmed. The buzz in the room quieted to a hush, like everyone knew something was about to happen, but didn't quite know what. Colbert stood gesturing toward the stage. Now, before she heads back into the stratosphere, or at least to her car in the parking lot, Katy has something a little special for us. A spotlight clicked on. Katy stepped up to a mic that shimmered like moonlight. Her silver jumpsuit caught the stage lights again, refracting like it was stitched from solar panels. Behind her, the screen came alive. Real footage from her Blue Origin flight played, slow-motion clips of her floating inside the capsule, silhouetted against the curve of Earth, her daisy pinned above her heart. Then came the music, software, ethereal, synths that sounded like they'd been downloaded from the Hubble telescope. She closed her eyes, took a breath, and began to sing. Up above the noise and lights, past the fear, past wrong and right. There's a view that changes everything, and I saw it, floating. The crowd was silent, spellbound. Didn't bring a crown, just truth. Left behind what I once knew. In that blue I found my fire, and I'm still burning. Visuals of her drifting against Earth's horizon melted into constellations, then into slow fades of little girls watching from living rooms, from classrooms. It wasn't just a performance, it was a message. A new anthem, less teenage dream, more galactic awakening. As she hit the last note, the music swelled, then dropped into silence. The crowd didn't react immediately, not because they weren't moved, but because they forgot how to breathe for a second. Then, thunder, applause, cheers. Some stood, a few wiped tears. Colbert appeared beside her, stunned. "Okay, wow. Is that going to be on the album?" Katy smiled. "Only if NASA approves the sample from their launch audio." More laughter, more applause. The Space Queen had sung, and the Earth was listening. Colbert turned back to the camera, beaming. "Well, folks, that about wraps it up for tonight. Our thanks to Katy Perry, space traveler, pop queen, honorary astrophysicist, and Daisy ambassador." Katy bowed theatrically. "Thank you, Stephen, and thank you, planet Earth." The audience erupted. But just as the credits started to roll and the band kicked in with a jazzy remix of E.T., a man in a security uniform walked briskly onto the stage. He tapped Katy on the shoulder. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me." Katy blinked. What?" Colbert looked confused. "Wait, what's going on?" The guard spoke into a walkie. "Yeah, we've got the subject, preparing for re-entry." The audience started laughing. Katy played along, wide-eyed. "Stephen, am I being kicked off your show?" He stood up, mock outraged. "No, yes?" "Wait. What's the protocol when a guest defies gravity and television time limits?" Another security guard appeared, gently guiding Katy toward the exit. She clutched the mic dramatically. "Is this because I sang in zero gravity?" she shouted over her shoulder. "Because I can sing in court, too." Laughter rippled through the audience. Colbert followed, pleading with the guards. "She's cleared for orbit. I saw the helmet." As she was ushered off stage, Katy called back, "Tell Wendy's I'm not coming back for the fries." With that, she disappeared through the side curtain. Colbert turned to the camera, completely deadpan. "Well, folks, that's what happens when you go to space and return with too much star power," he sighed. "We'll try again next week with someone who hasn't broken the sound barrier." Cue final applause, Cue closing theme. Cue the world wondering if they'd just watched a comedy skit or the first act of intergalactic diplomacy. One thing was clear, Katy Perry wasn't just a guest. She was the show. The screen faded to black, then a flicker. A soft rec symbol blinked in the corner as grainy handheld footage rolled. Colbert's voice played over it. Now, before Katy was floating in here like she owns orbit, we had a few cameras capturing what went down behind the scenes. Cut to Katy backstage, standing in front of a mirror, adjusting the daisy behind her ear. Does it scream Space Mom or intergalactic pop icon? She asked her stylist, smirking. A crew member walked by with a clipboard. Katy stopped him. Hey, what's the emergency snack protocol here? Like if I have a cosmic-level craving? He stuttered, laughed, and pointed to the green room. We've got granola bars? Perfect, she nodded solemnly. Fuel for the mission. Cut to Katy walking the hallway with Colbert before showtime. You nervous? He asked. Please, she said. I've been shot into the stratosphere, inside a tin can. Talking to you is turbulence light. He laughed, pretending to be offended. Next clip, her walking onto the set for rehearsal. She looked up at the studio lights. These feel like mini-suns. I'm sweating in places I didn't know had sweat glands. The camera zoomed in on her boots, custom white, with tiny constellations stitched in. Someone off-camera gasped. You see that? Katy said. Fashion, function, and a reminder to shoot for the stars, even with your feet. Laughter off-screen. Quick cuts followed, Katy high-fiving the band, Katy doing mic checks, Katy giving finger guns to the cue card guy. Then one final moment. A quiet one. She stood just off stage, hands folded, breathing slowly. Someone asked, You good? Katy nodded. Yeah, I'm ready to talk about the stars and about staying grounded. Fade to black. The audience applauded, this time softer, moved, not hyped. Because this wasn't just a pop star in glam, it was a woman who'd been to space and still asked for granola bars before airtime. The camera returned to the main stage. The lights dimmed, a little warmer now. The audience settled into a different kind of stillness, less anticipation, more reflection. Colbert turned to Katy, hands folded. So, he said, his voice quieter now, you've been to space. You've sung in zero gravity. You've clapped back at fast food chains and educated me on escape velocity. What's next? Katy smiled. Not the big, showy kind. A quiet one. The kind that comes with clarity. What's next, she said, is planting that experience back here, on Earth, with people. She paused thoughtfully. This flight wasn't just for the headline. It was for the little girl who thinks science is too hard, the single mom who dreams bigger than her zip code, the kid who's told to pick between being creative or being smart, because I'm telling them, you don't have to choose. The audience nodded, silent, some visibly moved. I saw Earth from above, Katy continued, and from that height you don't see lines, no borders, no hashtags, just one tiny blue home. That changes you. You stop asking, what do I want to do, and start asking, what can I give? Colbert leaned in. That's beautiful. Are you going to put that in a song? Katy laughed. Only if you want a writing credit. They shared a smile, the real kind. And what's next for you here? He asked. She nodded. A new album, a small tour, but also launching an initiative to get more girls into STEM, starting with schools that don't usually get the spotlight, because we've got enough influencers. We need more innovators. Applause rose again, not thunderous, resonant. Colbert stood. Well, Katy, thank you for sharing your orbit with us tonight. She stood with him. Thank you for giving space to something bigger. The music swelled. The crowd stood. And for one brief, shining moment, late-night TV wasn't about bits or buzz, it was about possibility. As the credits rolled and the stage lights faded, the audience left the studio changed, not because of the star power, but because one woman had gone to space and returned with perspective and the courage to share it.